Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is Sunday, July 10th, 1443 on the ancient sun calendar, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar, a butterfly, and 2022 on the Greco-Roman calendar. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign living ancient Article 3 Moorish American Al-Moroccan Consular Court action. We are the sovereign living justice in capitis diminution nullo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. All Moors are the original indigenous sovereign ancient Al-Moroccan Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the original indigenous natural divine sovereign ancient empire state for Morocco and the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government, Washington District for Columbia, the Universal Moorish American Consulate, and the Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. We are peace. We are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby accept our sovereign ascension and exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, non-pro-tunc. If this is your first time on the call, we want to welcome you and to let you know that there may be some things that you may hear that you may or may not understand. We would ask that you just continue to stay plugged in to your nation so that, because over time, the same way that it worked with us, it will work with you. Where the things that you're hearing now that you don't understand is going to come back to your remembrance later as you continue studying. And when those things come back to your remembrance, it's going to be an aha moment, and you'll say, that's what they meant by this, and that's what they meant by that. So the pieces will come together for you to make the whole. And again, we welcome you. We're so glad that you're here. On just a quick announcement before we go into our subject matter. On July the 12th, 13th, and 14th, which is in just a couple of days, on the 13th is the supermoon. It will be the biggest supermoon of the year, meaning that it will be the time that the moon will be closest to us here at Earth for this year. And so the day before the supermoon, the day of the supermoon, and the day after, we want to harness the energy of the supermoon and put it with our demonstrations and put it with our own energies by way of fasting during that 3-day period. Our regular, this is something that we do every month, a 3-day fast around the time of the moon, the full moon. And so that fast can be done however you choose to do it. Some people do water only for the 3 days, which I recommend that. Because it helps to clean our systems out from all that we consume over that 30-day period. And 1 day of just drinking water and, one 24-hour period, it erases so much of the toxicity that we've been putting into our bodies 3 times a day for many, many years, especially before we woke up. So some of us will do water only for the 3 days. Others will do where they stay away from meat, or they stay away from sugar, or they stay away from sodas and coffee, or they stay away from, negative energy, or whatever it is that you're led to fast from. And the point of the fast first is to continue to utilize the resource of the cosmos and the astrology and the things that have to do with the sun, moon, and stars and the energies therewith, so that we can continue to align with nature. And that is what the fast is mainly about. It's putting us and our chakras back in alignment like they were from ancient times. So that is what we do together during that 3-day period. And I will say this, that if you have any demonstrations that you are planning, those 3 days or right after that 3-day period is a great time to send out your liens, your affidavits, your commands, or to just increase your study, because the energies are so much more, well, and I can't say much more because the energies are awakened as we are continuing to awaken. But those are great times because of the moon energy specifically, and how the moon energy works with our anatomy, our biology, our consciousness, our makeup, from the smallest cell to all of us together, and who we are as a nation, as a people, as the state, as the government, as the law, and all that we are. So, and then set an intention. It is suggested that you set an intention for the fast. Our intention for this fast is to continue to manifest the vast estate. We have been doing many things in order to manifest our governing authority, and we see it happening all the time. And we will give, we'll show further light on that today in terms of best ways to govern the resources on our vast estate, and how to use what's already in place to get the things that we need. With that being said, there was a story that I want to discuss briefly because it's so important with regard to the Georgia Guidestones. There was an incident in the news where apparently something or someone blew up one of the 4 placards or the Guidestones at Georgia Territory. And I believe that, and I know that it was that was a sign from the ancestral energies for us to take a look at the Georgia Guidestones and see what they say and see what that has to do with us. And as I began to look at the Guidestones and see what our attention was being called to, it just brought everything together for us with regard to why we have had the divine urge to do the things that we're doing. So I want to take a moment and just read over the 10 principles of the Guidestone that was supposedly destroyed. And again, those particular Guidestones were put up by foreigners. And we know that they have been acting out the things that we are manifesting. And when we manifest who we really are, then the actors have to step aside. Okay, and I believe that's why what happened. We don't know who did it or anything like that, but we pay attention to what's going on our land, and we know that when we do what we're supposed to do, we see the fall of that which was pretending to be us. So I looked at these Guidestones, and the first one said this was the big boogeyman of the Guidestones. Okay, it said maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. When I saw it, I knew exactly what it meant. So this does not mean what the boogeyman fearmongers intended for it to mean. What this means, maintaining humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature, it simply means that there are 500 million sovereigns on the earth, 500 million of us on the earth, 350 million of which are at North America. Okay. The other 150 million are not at America. They're on other lands. So humanity shall remain under the authority of the 500 million. That's what that means. Humanity is all others. So it can be 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 billion people on the earth. It can be there. That's possible. They don't have to go anywhere, but they are under the authority of the sovereigns. It always has been that way since time immemorial into perpetuity, and that is why the word perpetual balance with nature, those words are being used specifically. Perpetual means into perpetuity, like we've been saying. Balance with nature. Nature is the natural people of the land. That's us. So maintaining humanity under the 500 million is what that means. And that can be any number. It can even be trillions of people. So there's no depopulation, quote unquote, agenda where the living, breathing man and woman is concerned. Okay. There is depopulation when it comes to corpses and corporations because they were considered persons, and then they were being included in all types of things that have to do not with persons and corpses and corporations, but with people. So there was some doublespeak going on there. Number 2, guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. And again, more, this is not a boogeyman. Guide reproduction wisely. We don't just reproduce heirs, we reproduce everything. Everything is created by us. So when we say, when it's saying guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity, that's everything that we produce. That's everything that we produce. It's not just creation. It's not just creatures of creation. It's everything. We produce every time we create an affidavit. And the affidavit goes out and it improves fitness and diversity of our resources. Okay, we are to guide or govern all that is created wisely. That's all this is saying. And then, of course, our heirs that come from the matriarchs, the womb. Of course, we're going to do that wisely in improving fitness and diversity. Diversity meaning how do I say this? Diversity meaning all that our heirs can think and become and be and see and do. Remember when we were little, our parents always said, you can be anything you want to be when you grow up. That's diversity. Diverse means 2 words. Di means 2, verse means a word. Increase and improve. Improve fitness to govern. Are we fit to govern? Yes, we are. Can we govern a diverse group of people? Sure, we can. And not necessarily people, but resources. Because you cannot tell sovereigns what to do. Humanity and subjects, we can, though, because they come from us and they look to us for guidance. We're not, you can look in the ancient records as to how that is done, and we're showing today, even now, the best ways to do that, okay? And when I say the best ways, and we are showing the best ways, I mean all of us. The way that we're moving forth is peacefully, with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. That is guiding reproduction wisely. Reproduction of processes, reproduction of products, reproduction of the land, reproduction of crops and inventions and technology and all of that, government, all of that. Number 3, unite humanity with a living new language. When I saw this, I just about fell out of my chair because this was the ancestors just saying, yes, ancient English, yes, ancient English, because there is one language that the whole earth knows, just one, that all nations on earth know, and that's English. There's no place that you can go on earth that they don't know English. But the English that we were speaking in our sleep was a dead language. So we had to create a new living language, and it's really not new, it's ancient. We had to unite, and now everyone who speaks English can understand ancient English. Some say, oh, that's not a language, it's something you made up. All languages were made up. All languages were made up by the Phoenician Moors. Those languages were then hypothecated and subrogated and made to be dead because they were spoken by the dead, the spiritually dead. And now we're saying, okay, we're awake. We have a living new language that unites us all. Ancient English is that language. Ancient English encompasses the Moors. You can use ancient English, just it comes straight from your heart. However you choose to spell a word and to cast and break your spells, that makes it yours. That makes it the law, because we are the law. And with ancient English, I have yet to hear of anyone who said, I don't understand a single word of that, because it's phonetic like the Phoenicians. So Moors, ancient English, the only rule to ancient English is that the Moors write it and speak it the way they want to write it and speak it. It encompasses all other languages. Some of our spellings are French spellings of words. Some are Spanish spellings of words. And in one sentence, we could have 5 different languages presented there. There could be a word spelled using the French spelling. Then the next word is a Spanish spelling. The next word is a Latin spelling and pronunciation. We do it at the beginning of all of our calls too, where we're stating who we are, and we're saying we're in capitis diminution nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris. That is ancient English, because we're putting all of it together. Every language came from us, and now every language is returned to us. We had to do that. So humanity is united by way of ancient English, and everyone understands it. There are over 200 dialects of English. Over 200 dialects of English. We've just made it so that all dialects of English live and can be used, and we all understand them, including commercial English, which is what's on the screen here. Commercial English or common English is what's on the screen here. And this English has been properly stated in our sovereign state, so it does not belong to the dead, it belongs to the living. Rule, passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. We're doing that right now, all of us. The fasting, where passions and temperance are concerned. Listen, if you have something in your life that is taking more authority than you want it to take, for some it's food. You know, they just can't seem to turn away from a whole bunch of food. You know, food is our friend, food is good for us, but it cannot rule us. And no matter what is going on in your life, whether it be no matter what the appetite is, fasting will help put all of those passions and appetites under control so that we control them and they don't control us. Including financial issues. Fasting helps get financial issues under control because we're taking control of the impulses and the urges that attempt to rule us. You know, children, the babies live by those urges. When the baby wants to eat, the baby cries until the baby gets food. Well, we're not babies anymore. And so, you know, when the programming kicks in that led to us compromising previously, thinking that we must have this or that or the third. We must have it, and you know, if that means not being ourselves to get it, then some are willing to do that. Fasting helps to rule that so that we don't compromise no matter what, even in the face of whatever, in the face of fear, in the face of lack or what appears to be lack, that we will not compromise. 5, this one, I jumped over the moon with this one. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. What more can I say to that? Our courts are how we first protect ourselves, because we can't protect anyone if we're not speaking the law. We can't even protect ourselves. And this one is near and dear to my heart because this was the first question that I asked the ancestors when I woke up, was how do we get past fake courts, fake policy enforcers, and their guns and all of that? How do we get past that? And the ancestors said, the courts. You must have your own courts, and they must operate regularly, often, all the time. They must be in operation 24/7 into perpetuity. And we see that through testing, we found that to be truth. That is the place that we were tested the most initially, is getting the courts up and activated. Because our courts have always been, we're just activating that which our ancestors already put in place. And that is the first protective, the mention of protection in these Guidestones. That's the first mention of protection. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. And the only way they're going to be fair and just is we have to do it. Number 6, is more of the same. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. The world court is the Moors. We're already doing world court duties. How are we doing world court duties? Because we're already speaking in a consular manner to others who are external to our nation. We started that a while ago, and we're still doing that. And that is more of what we've been talking about and what we're going to discuss today, and show how that is most efficiently and effectively done by our courts. Number 7, avoid petty laws, which is codes and statutes, and useless officials, which is those pretending to be officials. Plain and simple. We cannot call them judges because they're not judges. Any foreigners on our land, they're not judges, they're not police, they're none of that. Number 8, balance personal rights with social duties. This one is near and dear because, you know, we talked about this a little bit on the last call. Our empire comes first before our own personal wants and needs, period. You know, I would love to have a brand new whatever, you know, but I'm not going to go out there and contract for something that's already ours. That's number 1. And number 2, there are things that are more important than that, than me wanting some frivolous thing. Our empire comes first. And when we put our mother's business first, mother will take care of us. Honor our foremothers and forefathers, that our days may be long so we can enjoy this empire. So, you know, for those who are struggling, who are saying, you know, I'm having to eat noodles, you know, I'm barely making it. Put empire first. Seek ye first the empire, and all those things will be added unto you. I'm seeing that happen even now. And before we started recording, we talked about briefly how the energies changed, and just a few days ago, the magnetic dome over the earth opened. For 14 hours it was open on Friday, Holy Friday, this past Holy Friday, bringing in the provision that is needed for the heirs. It takes a cosmological, astrological, universal action in order for provision to come to us, because it's so much. So when we put the empire first, everything else is coming. It's already here. We just have to govern it. And that's why that's the only thing that held it back, is we needed to govern it. So right now, what are we doing? We're remembering how to govern such vast resources. Number 9, prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. And who is the infinite? The infinite is within us. We are first to prize truth within us, the beauty within each one of us, the love in us, seeking harmony with ourselves. Because any war that has ever happened outwardly happened within someone first. War happens within first, and peace happens within first. And the reason that peace is beginning to manifest here on the earth is because we have harmony within and peace within, which is resulting in us being unified outwardly as well. I mean, these 10 principles are very elementary in their expression. They're expressed from an elementary perspective, but they cover the gamut of the principles that we have already been doing. We've already been doing these things. We just have to keep going. And then number 10, be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. Who is nature? Nature is us. We just have to do that. Leave room for ourselves. And this one, be not a cancer on the earth, it just means put back more than you take. And then let nature take its course. What is nature? That which is natural to us, which is what we're doing now. We're making room right now. There's an old saying that says, your gift will make room for you. Well, natural gifts, when they're manifested through us, make it so that the earth prospers instead of being diseased. So our natural gifts, and we are all being called outside of our comfort zone. So, you know, for those who are not comfortable with court actions and things like that, just know that none of us were, because we didn't know we were even supposed to be doing them until we woke up. So we're all being called outside of our comfort zone. And then when we get out here, where we are and where we're going, it becomes second nature and really first nature. So I just thought it interesting to note that our attention was being called to the Guidestones by way of that incident, so that we can look and see that we have been divinely guided this whole time. Everything that we've been doing has been through that divine urge within each one of us to keep our courts going and to speak by way of our courts. Let our courts do the work. One of these is specifically speaking to statehood. Number 8, that balancing personal rights with social duties, that's statehood. That's putting the state and the needs of the state first. Who is the state? The state is the people. This is the ultimate act of love, if you ask me, is setting our personal rights. We have those rights. We're entitled to those rights. Our natural rights, okay, that we, the gods, have given to ourselves. Those rights are great. The rights of all should take precedence first. Then our personal rights come in. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. Are there any questions or comments regarding the things that we have stated, or anything that you noticed with regard to the Georgia Guidestones? Let me Islam, and you can star 6 if you want to state anything with regard to what we stated so far. Islam. Okay. Courts are mentioned in 2 of the 10. I just want to make that clear. Our courts are so important. Our courts are everything. That is the part that we needed to do.
Why hasn't Angel Bay received her free conveyance after she commanded it so?
So now, let's move forward, because we want to put emphasis on how we're governing the territories and ensuring that as we govern the territories, that we're doing it in a manner that is consistent across the board. And this is just offering some guidance on ways to do that. And then more, as you're inspired by the ancestral energies, you know, you do it your way and the way that the ancestors are inspiring you to do it, because there's no wrong way for us to govern. We just have to continue doing it. So I saw an ad, actually, Islam Empress.
Hi, and this is Rose L. When I sent you the information about abortus,
Yes.
I did it early this morning, not knowing that you were going to present this. I was looking up sanguinis because the definitions I saw on the internet included civil, a civilian.
Yes.
So I wanted to get an old definition of sanguinis, and then I thought I could look up abortion as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Rose, why don't you look up why Pauline pays taxes on...
I'm just glad that we can see now with regard to the words, the language, because jurisdiction is in the language. That whole, again, the Roe v. Wade piece, that piece was really all about, were we going to have to go another couple of generations and babies be given fraudulent documents, which are really death certificates and not birth certificates? That's what that was all about. And the answer is no. We will create the sovereign living birth affidavit so that abortion stops. Because that's really, that's what abortion is. The baby reaches a certain point and then death occurs. That's what abortion really was about. When you give a living baby paperwork that says the baby is a corpse because a dead entity issued corpse documents and mother said okay, then there's a problem there. The Guidestones mentioned a living language. The living language is our affidavits. Why? Because we have declared that we're alive. So, Empress, thank you so much for that. Empress Rose sent the Empress Rose. What was it? The 1738 or 1838 Latin.
1828 Latin Dictionary of Etymology. Oh,
yes.
No, Etymology of the Latin language.
Yes.
Hey, Rose, sweetheart, look up Pauline's tax records.
That is very beautiful. I had not seen that before. And so when she sent me that, it hit home in terms of what we know about the language, the etymology. So, Moors, if you have an opportunity to look up that Latin book of etymology, look it up because it is powerful. It really breaks down the words that we've been using so that as you're crafting your affidavit, you can use some of that language. See, that's what ancient English is about. As long as those documents, those words are in a Latin book that we have not published, then it's still dead, but we have the ability to bring it to life. And it's actually, we as far as I'm concerned, that's an obligation that we have. We must rewrite and bring to life all that we see. Because until we do, it's not living for us. It's dead. You know. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. Period. It still is. So during our last call, we discussed one of our territorial government strategies, which is to pay attention to the meetings being acted out by the custodians in our city council offices so that we can speak by Article 3 court affidavit directly to the events and issues related to the property, the natural resources, and the commerce, and that includes grocery stores and things like that, in our territory so that money, real money, can be properly appropriated for the needs of our people, which is all people. No money can move about to provide remedy unless we speak, because we are the bank, we are the law, we are the government, and we are the city, state, and federal, all day, every day. So, thank you, Empress Rose. She put a link to the Latin dictionary in the chat. Let me make sure I grab that really quickly. Okay. So in looking at the events that are going on and looking at the custodians and watching them act out government so that we know how to do it, remember how to do it, I came across a story, okay, which gave me a very clear example of how we govern by way of our courts and our court actions on the land. I was looking through some materials and things, and I came across an article, okay, that, and from my perspective, whenever I see things, I say, this is coming across my desk for a reason. There was an event happening in the territories that the foreigners are acting out, or the custodians are acting out. So let me share it with you so that when you see things in your territory that you're led to speak to, that the way that you speak to it and that you see them do the changes is properly, you know, that we all speak in the same manner by way of our courts. There are changes that are happening in this territory, by the way, that are just amazing, just amazing. Just one moment. Let me see if I'll go ahead and put the link to this story, because I want to show how we speak in our territory. Here. So I saw this story, and more. This is really setting up how we do things, how we govern, and how we get the resources that we need in our territories, and you know, in order to assist the people in doing, you know, being about the people's business. Okay. So this website has changed since we started speaking to the custodians in our office. This website there used to be something that said State of Washington, something State of Washington, which is a corporate fiction. And when we put liens on everything and everyone and did what we needed to do, they changed it to Washington State, which is the republic for them. So it's not State of Washington, and this crest or this seal doesn't even say State of Washington. And then they put the crest in blue with gold scales, noting that this is the office of the Attorney General. So the changes were made. You know, we put a lien on, you know, the corpses that were pretending to be us, letting them know that we're here and we are governing, and they all got, you know, copies of the 40 documents. Then we started speaking in blue, and the changes were being made. We could see them as we began to speak in life into our land And you're seeing, many of the Moors are seeing the same changes in their territories as well. So I saw this story. It says, Ferguson wins $500,000 for individuals impacted by U.S. Etymology's unproven claims that its stem cell injections could treat COVID-19 and other medical conditions. And again, they're acting this out so we can see how to deal with issues that come up in our territory. And it specifically here says individuals because at one point, well, I'll say it this way. We're the state, right? We are Washington. Washington has both the authority and the obligation to look out for the individuals on our land. So does your territories. And that's why we had to go ahead and put the constitutions on the public record and put the county charter, at least the county charter where they were claiming that was a capital. We had to put the county charter on the public record so that everyone knows where everything is, because everything was not, it was lost at sea until we said, okay, we're here on the land, we're on the land, and so is all of our resources. So this story talks about, and you can read it here, I'll make it a little bit bigger for the screen. It says, and this is from June 9th, 2022, Attorney General's Office shuts down U.S. Etymology's deceptive marketing, including claims that stem cell injections could treat COVID-19. It says, Bob Ferguson today announced that, and we're not going to call him Attorney General because he's not Attorney General, we are. Bob Ferguson today announced that as a result of his lawsuit against the company, Seattle-based U.S. Etymology and its owner cannot advertise, market, or receive any payment for unproven stem cell treatment. U.S. Etymology must also pay $500,000 to the Attorney General's office, which will be used to provide restitution for those who paid for stem cell procedures. 107 individuals paid for the procedures and are eligible for restitution. Let me point something out here that we have been stating, and it shows that they know who's who and what's what, and they're in alignment. When they say that U.S. Etymology must also pay $500,000 to the Attorney General's office, that's our office, okay? The office of the Attorney General is when a custodian is in the office of, and they're doing things, acting things out, okay? Our office is the Attorney General's office because we're the Attorney General. And so we as the Attorney Generals, when we see things happening in our territories, we can speak to it just like this and stop the behavior. And all he did was place a lien on them. That's all he did, was put a $500,000 lien on U.S. Etymology. We know how to do liens. He didn't altogether terminate their complete and whole ability to do commerce, but our office did stop certain parts of their commerce with this lien. Okay, and then I want to go down here a little further so that we can take a look at how this is done. And you can read the rest of this with regard to restitution. Here, all 107 people eligible for restitution will receive a letter from U.S. Etymology in the mail in the next 2 months, which asks them to provide some information to the Attorney General's office for the purpose of providing the refund. Individuals must complete this form to receive their refund. What do you think they're doing when they say provide this information? What are they doing when they say provide this information?
That sounds like a contract to me.
Yes, it is.
Yep, they're looking for more contracts.
Yes, yes. And we will do the same. What they're also doing, they're not really, it is a contract, but all it's saying is that the Attorney General's office can speak for the people. So it's really saying, send this form so we can so that we have jurisdiction over you. That's what it is. It's jurisdiction. That's what forms and contracts do. Islam, nobility.
This is Isaac. They're also establishing a constructive trust.
Yes.
As well as everyone who fill out the form.
Yes. Yes. And individuals are considered minors in comparison to the state. And that's why when we speak, we are the state. But we are to protect the individuals at our territories. This is a commercial protection right here, using judicial processes, also known as judicial banking. Us as attorney generals, because all Moors are attorney generals too, us as attorneys general, and that's a military term. Generals are military. That's the military. But we are peacekeepers. Us as attorneys general are using judicial banking in order to keep every commercial transaction in alignment with the law, the supreme law for the land. So in this case, even though the title is Attorney General or custodian in the Office of Attorney General, they're actually acting as judges. There's been an issue. All they did was what we've been doing, using our offices and our authority and our courts to issue justice on the land. Period. So what we've been doing has been absolutely what we should be doing. And so as I looked at the story, when it says individuals must complete this form to receive their refund, they're also, and this is another reason why Delarium was so important, and gold back lawful money, which is what Delarium is so important. There has to be a monetary system that emanates from the courts, because all judges are bankers and all bankers are judges. And so are everyone who has an office is a judge on the land. And so we could not have, I can't say we couldn't because we can do whatever we want, but in order for everything to be aligned properly and for our judicial processes to be aligned properly, we had to have our own money. So that when we issue things like this, the people actually get real money back. in terms of their refunds. They need real money back. We don't want to govern and do things with fiat, because that would mean we're not giving the people substance. There were already those that were doing fiat, quote unquote, judgment, supposedly. You know, so us having our own money means that our courts are 100% lawful courts. They are doing court actions, absolutely, yes. So then we began to look even further into what's really being stated here. The Attorney General's office, which is our office, has absolute, and this is any of our offices, whether it be governor, attorneys general, whatever it is. Remember, that's what the 40 documents is about, Moors. The 40 documents is saying that we have authority over individuals on our land. Absolutely, we do. So then I said, okay, let's take a look at the consent decree that they issued, because what they did was the custodians in the Office of Attorneys General sent U.S. Etymology, those custodians doing business as U.S. Etymology, sent them a letter, a consent decree, a judicial document. Without a court, without calling them into court or anything, because again, our liens are default judgments in the favor of the people. And so here it says, under the consent decree filed in King County Superior Court. I just love this because King County Superior Court, let me just show you where they have gotten in alignment with us, and we'll show you that. It's at the end of all of our documents. King County Superior Court, this is the place where, this is the constitutionally inferior court whose signet ring we put on our documentation. One of the inferior court, one of four, actually. So under the consent decree filed in King County Superior Court, the company must pay $500,000 to the Attorney General's office, which will be used as restitution for those who paid for this person's stem cell treatments. The company must pay $300,000 in suspended penalties if they violate the terms of the consent decree. So what is it that prompted this action? What prompted the action is the people. Some individual came to provided proof to the Attorney General's office that something had happened and they had received ill treatment or some malpractice or something had been done that was not right for them. So it is the people that bring these things to the attention of us, the government. And sometimes that's done through the media, and sometimes it's done where people will send writings and things to us, and sometimes it's done face-to-face. So once there was evidence brought by the people or just cause to investigate, then the Attorney General's office began to put evidence together that showed, yes, something had happened. Now, the reason they mentioned the number of people is because it can't just be something that just one individual has complained about. It needs to be something where more than one individual is complaining. A group of individuals is complaining, okay? It says here the Attorney General's office has, and we're going to look at the consent decree because that's the key, okay? The Attorney General's office has independently verified that U.S. Etymology lacks the funds to pay the full judgment amount immediately. The company is required to pay the $500,000 within 24 months at a 6% interest rate. The Attorney General's office will provide restitution before utilizing any remainder to cover the cost of the case and future enforcement of the Consumer Protection Act. So, under the consent decree, the company can't do this, they can't do that, they must do certain things, okay? Details of the case, you can read that in this, about how the case started. The Attorney General's office was first alerted to this case when a concerned Washingtonian. So what did they do? They had to actually identify the parties. Proper identification of the parties is the beginning of all court actions. Who is it that's speaking? A concerned Washingtonian reported the company's false claims that it could treat something. The company made these claims for at least 3 months in the early stages of the pandemic. Okay, so the first thing that happened was that a Washingtonian, and they're calling them a Washingtonian, they didn't say a U.S. citizen. And this is key for our territories, Moors. That's why we had to put these constitutions on the public record so that everyone will know who they are and where they are. So individuals saying a concerned Washingtonian. And then the first thing, when the Attorney General's office, and these are the steps. When the Attorney General's office got the alert from the concerned Washingtonian, then they sent a cease and desist letter to U.S. Etymology using the evidence brought by the citizen, the concerned Washingtonian. So that's the first step in due process, is notification that, hey, there's a problem, and based on what the citizen is saying, because see, citizens cannot fight corporations by themselves. They actually have to, because the standing is different. They have to have government in place to do that. Okay, sovereigns can. We've proven that, haven't we? With our liens and things, sovereigns can speak, but it's best that the sovereigns be a part of a sovereign state, such as ours, where statehood has been proven on the public record. It is acknowledged, and now we're moving forward with further documentation and governing of the resources. So after the Attorney General's office sent a cease and desist letter, the company removed from its website the claims that stem cells are effective against COVID-19. While looking into the consumer complaint, investigators at the Attorney General's office discovered that the company claimed it could treat dozens of other conditions, and they go into that. And then they talk about, you know, all that happened. And so when we hear of complaints in our territories from the individuals against the corporations, this is why we had to lien all the corporations. We had to lien them first to get their attention and to state that, no, you corporations do not run rampant on our land. Okay, we govern them. And this is a prime example of why we put the 40-something documents on the public record, because we must govern because believe it or not, the companies are the resources. The companies are the resources that we use in our territory. This one I would not use, you know, because we don't need it. But the people, some of the people do. Some of the individuals do. So let's look at, so we know what happened first a cease and desist was sent based on the claim, an investigation that was prompted by the claim that the citizen, the Washingtonian, brought forth. Okay, so this is what was filed. Let's click on the consent decree because I found this to be just most informative. It gave us some recommendations on how to do the things that we do. Now, they went into the courts, their fake courts. This here at the top says State of Washington. So you got several things going on here. You have Washingtonians and the Republic using a corporate court to speak to a company or a corporation in the territory. And then here, this is in all capital letters in black ink, King County Superior Court. So when we do our court actions with regard to things like this going on, we will do it similar to this, but it will be, again, we speak by affidavit. So we do it on government letterhead. We are Washington, in all capital letters in blue ink, when we're doing court actions like this. And this consent decree, again, all it is there was no calling anyone into the court or anything. All they called them by documentation. Okay, they gave it a number, and this is according to the date. February the 3rd. It was either February the 3rd or March the 2nd was when this document was drafted up, because I looked through. But as you can see, the state of Washington is the plaintiff, not the individuals, but the state of Washington is the plaintiff. So we are Washington, and we showed you where we were the plaintiff. We were the plaintiff, and then we listed two individuals who were previously doing business as chief of police and mayor. We showed you that a couple of calls back, where we did this very same thing here. This is how you govern and obtain the resources, okay? Now, state of Washington in all capital letters for their purposes, for their intents and purposes, is the plaintiff. And then they put a name here, Tammy Maraglia. There must be a name, and we've known this through our teaching, that whenever we do liens and things, we name the persons. And then they did a summary of the judgment. Judgment creditor is not state of Washington in all capital letters. It's state of Washington in capitis diminutio minima. Why is that? Because they're speaking for the individuals. Judgment debtors, they are holding Tammy Maraglia accountable in her corporate capacity as quote-unquote doctor. Now, had they taken that title away and just put Tammy Maraglia, then they would have been holding her personally liable. Right now they're holding the company and her in her corporate status. So in other words, her paycheck would be affected by this, or her receipts that come into her to that U.S. Etymology are affected. Judgment creditor is, we are always the creditor. We're always the creditor, okay, in all of our actions. There's never an action that takes place that we're not the creditor. Principal judgment amount, $800,000, $300,000 suspended upon compliance with the consent decree. And then they list, you know, how the interest rate on their judgment. And then here, attorneys for the creditor and attorneys for the debtor, plaintiff. Now look carefully at this because this really caught my attention also. Plaintiff, State of Washington, and then here in parentheses they put just Washington. That is who. Now, again, this is being done in their state, so they're not talking about us. When we do it, we'll be talking about us. Okay? Just a moment. Let me make sure that. Okay. So, what are they doing here? They're mapping the law in the way that they can do it. But when we do these, we're going to give you a map of what we would cite in our decrees, consent decrees. So, and Moors, you can do this with regard to if you have a complaint personally in the territories and you want to speak to that, then you leave your personal complaint, your personal status, and then you speak as Attorney General or Governor or whatever the case may be. So now look at how they did this. Washington, they didn't say State of Washington, they didn't say State of Washington in all caps or in capis diminutio minima. They said Washington appears by and through its attorneys, Robert Ferguson, Attorney General, and Dan Davies and Logan Starr, Assistant Attorney General. And we know that that's not who they are. But again, this is acting. And we know this is acting also because they use the word it. Their Washington is an it. Our Washington is a who. And that is why Morris, now I'm going to go a little bit to the right here, but just know that that is why the owl is the sign where tarot cards and astrology and all that, they were making sure that we know that we are a who and not an it or a what. We are the who. Who is living being? What is a thing? It's property. When you look that up in the dictionary. So that's why the owl is so important in all that we do. And the owl is wise to know that we are who and not what. Whenever they speak about anything that has to do with their quote unquote state and their acting and things, it turns into a thing and not the living. So this is how we would, now for us, if we had written this, Washington would appear by and through its consuls, Pauline Denise Ritchie, and Dan Davies, whatever, you know, whoever. We're consuls. And you can say consul, you can say justice, you can say judge, you can say attorney general if you want to say attorney general. Because again, we are stating properly who we are. This, when our state speaks, it's a different state from this state. Okay, this is a dead state doing some acting. We are the living state. And we can use words that look the same, but when we say it, the words are alive and not dead. Okay, so they did get an agreement from these this U.S. Etymology and Tammy Maraglia. So apparently they got something in writing. I will say this about that. The damage could have been much greater if this one here, Tammy Maraglia, had not went ahead and acquiesced and capitulated to the Office of Attorney General. Had she not capitulated and said, okay, we're under your authority, we will pay $500,000, then that 107 people could have come back, and each one of them sued for millions. You know, good luck trying to win that in a corrupt system. But it could have been a lot worse. And then all that the attorney, this one acting as Attorney General did was he mitigated her damages. He actually helped her out. And then gave her a slap on the wrist and said, don't do that again. And if the people are okay with, some of them just want their money back plus a little bit over. Okay, fine, because they don't want to go through 10 years of litigation back and forth. So it says here, defendants recognize and state. Why did they say recognize and state? Those are legal terms, and those are terms that say that they are under the authority of the state. When we say we state something, that means we bring it, we're speaking from our own sovereign state, the Empire State, and Washington, which is the land state, and not some corporate state that just exists on a piece of paper. It says that this defendants recognize and state this consent decree is entered into voluntarily, and that no promises, representations, or threats have been made by the Attorney General's office or any member, officer, agent, or representative thereof to induce them to enter into this consent decree, except for the promises and representations provided herein. Okay. Defendants, and this is where she got saved, Tammy Maraglia got saved, is defendants waive any right they may have to appeal from this consent decree or to otherwise contest the validity of this consent decree. And defendants further agree this court shall retain jurisdiction. See, he says this is a court. Shall retain jurisdiction of this action and jurisdiction over defendants for the purpose of implementing and enforcing the terms and conditions of this consent decree and for all other purposes related to this matter. So when the people, those persons, when those Washingtonians filled out the form saying, hey, we want to be a part of this lawsuit so that if something happens, we get us a piece of the pie. They think they're getting a benefit, which they may get a little bit. But what are they doing? Really? They're yielding jurisdiction for this and all other purposes to the state, this dead state in this case. But in our case, it will be a living state. And proper protection is provided in our sovereign state. And the individuals, they actually must be under our jurisdiction because they're individuals, they're not the state. And they're on this land, living and pursuing happiness. You know, so this is a way for both parties to get what it is that they wanted. And this is how we would govern this type of an event. And again, Moors, and this is why we said that we will not be filling out any forms, but that we speak by affidavit, because whoever it is that issues the form, when you fill out their form, then they have jurisdiction over whatever you call yourself in that form, whether it be a defendant, a consumer, a customer, a patient, an affiant, whatever you call yourself. This is why we don't do it, because this statement right here is written into each and every form. So we speak by affidavit. I mean, when people go to this Tammy Maglia's office, do they know that when they fill out her form that they are automatically under the jurisdiction of this Attorney General? Do they know that? And then she has placed herself, her office, everything under this jurisdiction also. So she can keep working. They didn't put her all the way out of business. She can keep working. She just can't keep doing it that way in a lawless manner and not caring about the people. And then they went into here. This court has jurisdiction of the subject matter of this action and of the parties. In other words, they're saying we have personam jurisdiction and subject matter jurisdiction. This consent decree or the fact of its entry does not constitute evidence or admission by any party regarding the existence or non-existence of any issue, fact, or violation of any law alleged by Washington. So you can see that there's a lot of language going on here that says, that talks about jurisdiction and the things that where jurisdiction is concerned. Again, we can use this as a model for governing our territory. And I'll put the link to this under this video and also in the chat. Yes, yes, that is so true. Unless the Empress Vizier Justice Shatali put in the chat, she said, and this was done quietly so that the common people don't know and will not reject treatment. Yes, but here's the thing. The obligation was to put it in the news, in the newspaper. They just chose to do it after everything was done instead of while it was going on or before, because they didn't know how it was going to turn out. The person who brought the complaint could have had an axe to grind and been like, you know what, even though she does good business, I'm just going to say she does poor business and get the Attorney General involved. You know, it could have been something petty like that, but as it turns out through their investigation, it turns out to not be, you know, it turned out to be what it is, you know. So those who it is. You know what? Though some people, because see, people were going to her. Empress Chitala said it's a snake oil scheme. We cannot. What if a sovereign wanted to open a business like that and they really believed that what they were doing and saying was correct? What if they really thought so? And they started doing some things and got a little bit of success with people, but then the success stopped coming, and then it turned into people were getting injured. It started out, you know, with just and good intention, and they got good results, but then things started not being so good. You know, she may have started out with honorable intention, and it just didn't work out the way Tammy Maglia, thought it would work out. You know, that has happened before. And so whenever we're approaching these issues, Moors, we have to be unbiased in in seeing what we see and doing what we're doing. You know, we need to be unbiased. Approach it with clear energy from both sides, and then do our own research and investigation and speak with the parties and then move from there. And in this case, you know, Moors, I would not hesitate to pick up the phone and say, this is Justice Light to Jure Bay. I am the Attorney General for Washington, the land, and you're on the land, and we have received a complaint about the services that you're providing. And so we're going to be sending you some documents in the mail for you to look at the documents and then provide your response to them from this court. Those documents will be coming. And can you tell me first, what is your name? Because proper identification of the parties. What is your name? Do you understand that everything that you're doing is bound by the Constitution? Do you understand that? We just want to make sure that you know that this is a constitutional judicial action. Okay. And we're not trying to scare anyone. The businesses and things, the resources on our land, we want the resources to be here. We don't want the Moors who are doing commerce or anyone else who's doing commerce, we don't want them to feel afraid, but we do want to ensure that what's being done on our land is being done in the best interest of the people. So Moors, this is how we're going to be moving forward. It's called enforcing the Constitution. And again, they quoted an RCW, which is a revised Code of Washington. They quoted that, but they did not quote anything that had to do with the Constitution or treaties or anything. But because our courts are Article III courts, we then use all of that. They quoted, yeah, here it is, pursuant to RCW such and such and so and so. A judgment in the amount of this is hereby entered against defendant. So we do have to support our judgment with those Moors who've placed the state constitutions on the public record, support it with a state code. And you can look at past cases. But then, Moors, because we are Article 3, there is a just one moment. Oh, okay. Let me point this out. Here it says, and this is this is where they lay out how the payments are to be made, what's supposed to be done with them, etc. It says all payments outlined in this section 4.3 shall be made in good funds, and we would say lawful funds, by wire transfer or valid check payable to or whatever, however we choose for that to manifest. Okay, gold back money, or gold back bank credits, and then we tell them where to send it or how to send it. Okay, and then it says here that they, quote unquote, defendants own the following described real estate situated in the County of King, State of Washington, the commercial property. This is why we had to go ahead and put the constitutions on the public record, because you have jurisdiction over that which is at your state. When you say, where is your state? You have to say where it is, and it can't be the same state as the corpses and corporates are claiming, which it could never be that. Okay. For us, The charter that we did is King County Charter. So we would say that the following described real estate is situated in King County at Washington, and it's the commercial property, etc., and then describe it. And then look here, this is important too. Again, everything that we have been doing up to this point was preparing us for this time to govern. Defendant shall grant Washington a lien on the commercial property as a security interest for the balance judgment. That means that there's a lien on it until the balance of the judgment is paid. And if the balance of judgment is not paid, then the property becomes state property, and it's state property already because we can put a lien on it. But it becomes in the possession of the state. So, Morris, do you see how our territories are to be governed and how the resources are to come? And then if there's any abandoned property or property that's listed as abandoned, we can do the same thing where properties are concerned. For example, we've done it with properties here where our court began to issue court actions regarding the properties based on where the property is. Where is it? We had to send them a copy of the Constitution and the charter that says where that property is located. Because property is not located in courts and corporations. It's located on our land. It says this lien shall take the form of a mortgage issued to Washington in the amount of $500,000. Listen, we have the ability to do all of this. We're competent to do it. And then again, there's nothing new under the sun. We can just look at this and say, okay, this is how we will structure each and every court action that we do with regard to all that's happening in our territories. And they're saying to her, this is what shall be done, a lien on the property. We know how to do liens, so we already know, how to govern these things. We had to learn all of those processes before we could get to this part right here. Defendants represent that Washington's security interest in the commercial property will be superior to all other liens on the property with the exception of the existing mortgage on that property. Yes, Islam.
Excuse me, this is Shatali. I see where it says the amount of $500,000 has two lines going through the S. And in my past study, it was said that when you have one S, it's fiat. When you have when you have one line going through the S, it's fiat. When you have two lines going through the S, that's lawful money. That's why, I'm surprised I see it has two S's. Because in the document, above the top, I thought I only seen one S. So I just sat up and saw, two lines going through the S. So I just up and saw I got two. I'm not 100% sure if that is accurate information, but.
Where did you see the two S's, the two lines?
When I was just studying about it, there was some commentary on why there's only one line going through the S now, that it used to be two lines going through the S.
Yes. So she's talking about the S here regarding the denomination of the money. When there was two lines going through that S, from your study, Empress, you're saying that it indicated lawful money and that one line indicates fiat.
Yes. So I don't know if anybody else came across that, but yeah.
I've heard it. I've heard that. I heard it the other way around. The way I heard it was that one line is for whoever it is that's writing that. Like when we use one line, that means gold back money. But what I heard previously was when we use two lines, that means that it's the republic. So it can go either gold and silver or lawful money. And it can be coming from either way. In the republic, it's the sovereign heirs, and then there's the citizen. And so that's two parties. And that's what I thought, that's two lines. That was my understanding of the two lines. We're sovereign, we can do it either way. Because it's going to mean what we say it means because it's being issued by our state. But that's some good study to do to find out, you know, what it means, because I've seen it with two lines and then I've seen it with one. In this case, they only have one.
Yeah, because when I am doing a document and I want to use a dollar sign, if I'm going through the symbols, through the list of symbols and words, you can't find a dollar symbol with two lines to save your life. You know, it's just not there. I can go online and Google it and find it, but you know, it's common practice to use only one line, you know, in any you know, Word documents, the apps, you know, when you're looking for symbols, is the only one going through the S.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll do some further study on that. But I could have sworn just, you know, in the upper part of the document, they were only using one line going through the dollar sign. And now down here, you got two. So, you know how everything it means something. So I was just wondering.
Yeah. They know what they're doing now, Empress. When they start changing things up and stuff like that, they know what they're doing. When they start, when an S goes from capital to lowercase, they know why. They did that on purpose, you know. And same thing with the dollar sign. Yeah, that's a good observation, Empress. It's, you know, yeah. So here they're just laying out. And Moors, we absolutely have the authority to do things like this in our territories, and in fact, it is incumbent upon us to do it. We must do it. It's our responsibility. And here it says defendant's failure to grant Washington a mortgage on the commercial property within 7 days of the entry of the consent decree shall constitute a material breach of the consent decree. In other words, they're saying sign this, or we call in the whole thing. Upon defendant's full and timely payment of the balance judgment and all accrued interest, Washington shall release the lien on the commercial property and provide to defendants an executed satisfaction of mortgage or release of mortgage. And then they start talking about civil penalty judgments, because that's actually what's being done here. So you can look through this, and you can have them to send written financial disclosures and other related documents to Washington, or to your state, evidencing that defendants have limited liquidity and income. Everybody gets poor when they start seeing things like this come through. They start telling the truth about what they really have. There is enforcement. This is Moors have been talking about, you know, how do we enforce what we're doing? Defendants shall be in full compliance with all requirements and obligations, except as otherwise indicated herein. If defendants violate a material condition, Washington may seek the imposition of additional conditions, civil penalties of up to all of this, restitution, injunctive relief, attorney fees, etc., as the court may deem appropriate at an evidentiary hearing in which defendants have an opportunity to be heard. So all they're saying is, again, enforcement is just going to be either you pay the little bit or you pay a lot. And this, Moors, is where things start out seemingly small and doable, but then if we, you know, or not we, but if the individuals don't rebut properly or state things properly and respond like they should, then the violations go up higher and the lien on the building kicks in, and then you start attaching fees to bank accounts and things like that. You start seizing things, okay? Things, that's what they call it. That's what Caesar is all about. Things start being seized if there's no, and again, this is all in the favor of the people in the territories. Now you can see where a lot of the corruption came from. You know, things being seized where there was no wrongdoing, and Moors, you know, we know about things like that. They've acted that out where we're concerned in terms of taking conveyances off the side of the road and all of that stuff. When a conveyance is taken, that's a lien. They're just doing a lien. They're just acting out a lien, you know. Here, jurisdiction is retained by this court for the purpose of enabling any party to this consent decree to apply to the court for enforcement of compliance with this consent decree, to punish violations thereof, or otherwise address the provisions of this consent decree. When they talk about enforcement, if you'll notice, they hadn't said anything about policy enforcers. They haven't said anything about sheriffs yet. They're going on down into the documentation. Let's look even further to see if the guns come out. Here, this is actually where you'll see the further enforcement. Washington shall be permitted upon advance written notice of 20 days to defendants to access, inspect, and or copy business records or documents in possession, custody, or under control of defendants to monitor compliance with this consent decree. This is how, you know, we go in and out of places and see what's happening on the land, you know. Provided that the inspection and copying shall avoid unreasonable disruption of defendants' business activities. So we're just putting this out here because this is where we're going as government on the land, because we are the government, we are the law, and we have to begin looking at the ways that we do this type of governing, okay? It is going to take some renewing of our minds so that we know exactly who we are. Here, Washington shall be permitted to serve interrogatories pursuant to. An interrogatory is an affidavit with questions in it, because they know that that's a court action. When you interrogate someone, you ask them a whole bunch of questions. Okay, so to serve interrogatories would be serving an interrogatory is the exact same thing as a quo warranto or a what's the one that we do, the first writ that we do. I forget the name of the writ that we do first when we're questioning jurisdiction, when we're saying, prove that you have jurisdiction. I forget the name of our affidavit. But that's what that is considered an interrogatory. In ancient England, they used to call it a letter of rogatory, where you're asking and requesting some things. And there's a difference between asking and requesting. We don't request, but we do interrogate, so to speak. We ask, hey, prove that you have this. Do you understand? And our asking a question during a court action is simply a statement of jurisdiction that we are as the king. That's what asking is. We are as king in all court actions. And here, this consent decree shall be binding upon and inure to the benefit of defendants, successors, and assigns. All agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any derivatives thereof. They got their language from us, by the way, Moors. Okay? From ancient times, we've always said all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any derivatives thereof. Okay? So now, down here at the bottom, the clerk of the court is ordered to immediately enter the foregoing judgment and consent decree. See, they called it a consent decree up at the top, but it's really a court action. It's a judgment. Done in open court this blank day of blank, and then the autographs here, the signatures rather. Okay. So the difference between what we're seeing here and what we would do is that our flags and things would be at the top. Because it's by affidavit. And we would do it in blue ink instead of black ink. Although we could do it in black ink, you know, if we chose to. So, Moors, you can see now where, yes, I'm sorry, thank you, Justice Morpheus. A writ of discovery. The writ of discovery is an interrogatory document. The writ of discovery is discovering, uncovering, asking, hey, do you understand that you're bound by the Constitution? Because that's also going to be another statement of identification of the parties. Yes, it is indeed the writ of discovery. So the 13 great writs, that's one of them. The 13 great writs. The quo warranto is another one. Averment of jurisdiction, quo warranto. And then, Moors, when we're doing these documents and things that we do, our court actions, we go ahead and call our court actions a quo warranto mandamus restitutio, which is 3 of the 13 great writs combined. And we can do that because we can. We've always been able to. We've always had the authority to do that. Here.
Excuse me.
Yes, Islam.
I saw something that said that only sovereigns can use writs, and so that when I saw that, I was like, okay, so that's why they use other means to express what they're saying, because only we can use writs.
Yes.
And so when we come back into, come back into
now that we are back into, now that we're there. Mm-hmm.
So, when they see the writ, they know it's coming, it's from a sovereign, because only sovereigns can use writs.
Yes, yes, and that's what we've been saying. This that we're looking at is a form. It's a form of government. It's not even real. That's why we don't do forms. Forms are inferior to our nobility. When we're judging, we use judgment we use. And throughout history, when I was in elementary school, I learned about writs of assistance. Writs of assistance happening back in I believe it was the 17 and 1800s, where when the foreigners came here, they had to go to the Moors and get writs in order to stop some of the commerce from moving because people were not paying taxes. So the foreigners got writs of assistance in order to board the ships and start looking at, okay, you're claiming that one thing is going on, but something else is going on. And they actually started using that against the Moors to stop Moorish commerce because we didn't realize that the capitalism had been put in place. So Moors were doing things in capitis diminutio minima. They were doing commerce in capitis diminutio minima. And the foreigners would bring documents with things in all caps, and the Moors didn't realize that, wait a minute, that's in all capital letters, so that's not me. They put it in all capital letters, and it was their capital letters, not the Moors' capital letters. So this time around, we said, okay, we're going to make sure that that doesn't happen again and that the Moors are well aware of that. We're going to take the capital letters also, and we're going to state them, originate them in our sovereign state. And that's what the fiduciary document does. So yeah, writs, you are stating your nobility when you speak by affidavits and writs. You're saying this is not coming from an individual, the common folk. It's coming from the heirs, the nobility, the government, the law, the ancients. It's coming from the superior law for the land and the supreme law for the land. That is who we are. Yeah.
There's also court action in 1803 between Marbury and Frey versus Madison, and a writ was used in that court action. And so I said, oh, okay, yeah, they were using writs back then, but because in my thinking that only sovereigns can use writ, I said, oh, okay, well this must have been a sovereign going to court.
Yeah.
Because they don't use, the court system now don't use writ. But there is a court out there where Marbury versus Madison where a writ was used.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't use writs because they're not real court.
Right. Can't use them.
Can't use them. Cannot use writs and affidavits. Can't. Because that's for us to use.
Yep.
And some Moors don't, they'll go fill out a form in a heartbeat. Okay, you're sovereign, you can do that. But just do it with full disclosure, knowing what you're doing. That's all we say is just know. Because you can do whatever you want to do, but just know that when you're doing that, this is what you're doing. Where jurisdiction is concerned. And then you make the choice. Well, maybe they want you to give jurisdiction. Okay, if you're going to do that, then use Federal Rule for Civil Procedure 17 and 18, where you're claiming that, where you're stating that the all caps is your all caps and not their all caps. Because when you use their form, they automatically attribute and say that this is our all caps. We own this all caps. So we can throw you in jail if we want to throw you in jail or whatever, or assess heavy penalties and all of that. So we have a choice more on how to do things. We have a choice. We have a choice. And I don't know about you all, but this is the way we're going. We're going to govern the things in our territories and the resources and things like that because we're supposed to, because that's why we're here. Not only that, but you can do this with banks and any other. We are to tell the banks and I'll say the custodians in the office of bank, because we're the real bank. That's why we can do this. We are to tell the custodians in the office of bank what to do and how to do it and what to accept and how to do things. But you have to know who you are. You have to know who you are. And then I'll say this about the banks too. There's something that I've done recently that the ancestors showed me about even the banks, because we are the banks, that we can do where their banks can't even dispute it. The custodians in the office of bank, or even if it's a corporate trying to pretend to be some authority, they can't dispute what we're saying. They can't, because we're doing right now the same thing that they did back in 1913 and 1871, and all that and all the other times where usurpation was taking its time and attempting to manifest on the land. It took steps and time for them to continue to do that, and then us say, okay, we're just not going to rebut that. Well, we're rebutting everything, and we're going to do that from now. That's what we do. And we'll do it until they be quiet. And they're quiet, they're getting there. They're getting there, but even then, we're still going to just speak the law. You know. I wanted to show you something here, Moors, that I found out about this, because when we say that all Moors are governors and all Moors are, let me see, and all Moors are, you know, all that we are, I want to show you something that affirms what we know about us with regard to that. So let me see if I can pull up. I'll have to pull up my history to find it.
Islam?
Islam, Empress.
I was looking at some paperwork from a church, what we call a church, and how they got started, like their articles of incorporation and everything like that. And I know for a fact that the individuals or the custodians were all Moors, and they had them listed as governor, the CEO, all of that. So that was further, I mean, I already knew that we're the governors, chief executive officers and all of that, but that was further evidence that we're all of that. You know?
Yes. Yes.
It's just they were just in a corporate state, you know.
Yeah.
It's not.
That's what I wanted to show you. Let me just find that page really quickly. I was doing a little research here. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. Okay, this is it right here, I believe. Let me see. Empress is highly in the chat. Yes, we are going to do that. We're doing that right now. I believe it's right here.
FBI and Capitis Diminution Nolo and Red Ink.
Yes. Yes, indeed. I'll pull it up and let me see if I can. Oh, that's right. I have it in download. I just want to show you really quickly how many just in this territory were claiming to be governors. Let me put the share on back on this page while I dig through. Okay, I'll do that and then okay. Here it is right here. Okay. I'm just going to show you really quickly. If it pops up, there it is. Okay. So this is how many people at this territory are claiming to be governors. Let me share this really quickly. Okay. Here. Can you all see this? It should be this. There's something here that says governing person. Can you all see this document here that says governing persons? Notepad. Okay. Look, this is how many people are claiming to be governors here at this territory. That's why I say all Moors are governors. By the time you go down this list, let me go all the way to the end and I'll tell you how many of them there are. And this is why we had to do the 40 documents. There are, right here, it gives the line number. It says 2,757,734. Foreigners on this land claiming to be governors. And they're listed with the quote-unquote Secretary of State's office, stating that they have it in writing that they're governors. Some of these locations from these ones here, and again, we're not mad at them. We're just seeing how to govern. Some of these locations here are in Spain, in other lands. Some of these locations here, but they're on record as being a governor, and they gave them a 9-digit number. A 9-digit number starting with 6, the number 6 here.
Is that for immigrants?
Yes. 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 All of these are, well, we know they're not proclaimed Moors because we didn't know anything about this list. So what I did a little further research is I put a few names of people around here in here, just to see, if they're claiming to be government also. And some of the names were not here, but 2 million people claiming that they are the government in this corporation. Let me put it that way, because this is a corporation. This is not the land. But we learned from this. When we saw this, we learned that, hey, you know what? All Moors are the government. All Moors are governors. All Moors are, presidents, executors, ministers, claimants, trustees, fiduciaries, all of that on our land, all of us. Because these people, I'm sure, have other duties that they do. And then here's something listed as an incorporator. What does that mean? We know what that means, but who knew that existed? This is just, to me, was quite interesting. Islam, Empress.
So does that list allows them to get the fiat and all the services they receive?
You know what? I would have to say yes, or it wouldn't be so many of them.
Right.
They're claiming to govern resources. They're claiming to govern resources in their corporation. We're not mad because they're not governing anything on our land. That's our job. That's why we're here. That's why we're pointing all of this out and saying this is how we're governing from this point, and how we've been governing since time immemorial, really. But more, for example, the grocery stores, and this is something I wanted to show you, or share with you rather. I say show you because that's just how we've been talking, but I want to use the word share with you because it's important that our language be correct. Because I'm not showing you anything you don't already know. It's just a reminder. It's in your DNA, your O and A to govern.
Islam,
Empress.
So, Empress, what do we do about this? Just this example that you presented alone. So that means all of these people are walking around on our land thinking they can do something or act.
Okay. No, they're not on our land. They're on paper in a corporation.
Okay.
We're actually doing that now for the real land. That's why the constitutions were so important. The Constitution tells everyone where they are, and statuses change based on where you are. We don't have to worry about doing anything to listen. Proper rebuttal of that is for us to do what we're doing.
Islam.
Yeah. We're putting those 40-something documents, and that's what some people don't feel like 40 documents is, but these people did it. They put 40-something or more documents on the public record to be able to do what they've been doing. So to me, I'm like, no problem. We got that. We can do it. Yes. So proper rebuttal to that. We don't have to worry about them in terms of we need to fight that. We don't need to fight what we just saw. There's no need to fight it. They're not on the land. They're in a corporation that is under a lien by us. So they, if that was that powerful, what they did at this point, they wouldn't be running around like they're running around crazy, looking at corpses doing business as president and all of that, looking for some help. and shelves empty and all that. You know, they're worried about that stuff. We're not worried about that because on the land there's plenty. You know. Yeah. So I wanted to also share with you further how we continue to govern. We, Moors, and again, you're encouraged to put those 40-something dollars. They're worth it because the more we uncover and reveal about government and what's really been going on, the more we see that those documents were a preemptive, not preemptive because they can't do anything now that we're awake anyway. They couldn't do anything really in our sleep. That's why we're still here. So we're not doing anything out of fear, but the documents were proactive. They were just proactive because the ancestors are going to show us a whole bunch of other things that we have already remedied. But we have to see, okay, this is why we did that. This is why we did this. Georgia Guidestones is a prime example. The reason we had to have our own course is because the ancient records say it. Those Georgia Guidestones are not the ancient records, but they got it from their representation or pretending to represent the ancient records, you know. So something, I wanted to show you a map of the process. This is a map of the steps to align directly with the court actions that we've already implemented and provided. We've already done most of this, but this is going to bring together the way that we state the law in our territories. The corporate court action that we just looked at only stated revised codes of state of Washington Corporation. But when we do our court actions, we and this is a suggestion so that we make sure that we touch each and every one of the dimensions when we speak. So some of the Moors, this is where in the past some Moors have gotten frustrated in the past, where they would do an affidavit and they would put the treaty and the Constitution in the affidavit, but then they did not see the result that they wanted to see with regard to the affidavit. So when we don't get mad at that. What we do is we keep looking at the processes and seeing, okay, what else can we add to this? Okay, not realizing that because we are multidimensional, we needed to speak to each and every dimension. We needed to speak to all of the dimensions in our documentation. That's why you're seeing more good things and more successes and more proper response to what we're doing, because we're using multidimensional law in order to speak in our affidavits. This list is a map of each of the dimensions that we speak to when we're doing our affidavits. And that's why a lot of times, for example, as we're moving forward, you know, and we've done all of these documents, we've done 40-something documents, and we sent them out. We notified everybody. And then after that, we put a constitution and a charter on the public record. And then after that, we are doing affidavits and other documentations. What we're doing is speaking to the same energies from each and every one of the dimensions so that there's completion. Because if you only speak to the legal, then the lawful is not properly addressed. And that's really what citizens were doing whenever they would talk about the Constitution and they would say they had constitutional rights. Well, you don't have constitutional rights If the spiritual is not correct and your identity is not correct, okay, you don't have any rights. You're considered black because you've not properly addressed your divinity. So that's the spirit realm. Our divinity must be on the public record. It must be. So the best way, and I won't say the best way, even though it is to me the best way, and it's the best way according to the law. In other words, we have to hit each and every dimension and speak to it. So when you're talking about something that seems as simple as a grocery store demonstration, because we're Article 3 courts, that is why we would touch all of these dimensions here. You want to take at least one article from the Treaty for Peace and Friendship, okay? And you need to have taken the treaty, put it in blue, which is commercial, because it's a commercial document too. It's a supreme law for the land, but it's commercial too. You want to do, even though we've done it, you also want to take that treaty and put it in blue, in capitis diminutio minima, on Moorish government letterhead, and publish it yourself. And you autograph it at the bottom, in red, in all lowercase letters. You autograph it and stamp and seal it with your right red thumbprint and put it on the public record. You each want to do that with the treaty. Okay, so that you familiarizing yourself with the treaty. And then when you do your affidavits, you look at it, you pull at least one article from the treaty and put that in your affidavit. And then you look at the Constitution for the United States, which is national supreme law. And it's really international as well, simply because it's us speaking to the subjects on our land. Okay, and then you'll take that and you can quote from that, or you can pull from, like, say, the Declaration of Independence is part and parcel of the Constitution. People are saying, you know, that they may not realize that, but the Constitution, the Articles of the Confederation, and the Declaration of Independence are all one document, and they're not even the only ones of that list of documents. They are all one. Then you'll want to take a Universal Commercial Code 1 article, such as Article 9, UCC 9, or UCC 1-304 or 204 or 308, or, you know, take one of those and put it into your document. Then you'll go to the Holy Quran, because you want to touch the ecclesiastical law, and pull one or two scriptures from the Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. And we like chapter 29, magistrate and subject, because it says it all in the first 2 or 3 verses. It says what the subject is to do, and where we as the magistrates are concerned. Then you want to pull 1 or 2 Bible verses, because it's ecclesiastically legal. The Bible is a legal code book that the subjects know and follow. That's why they honor that, because we wrote it initially. The ancient Sibyls wrote it, and we said, okay, we'll give this to the subjects and tell them, here, this is the law you follow. And then for us, we would take the Washington Constitution that we put on the public record, because we want to hit that state dimension. Okay, it would be for your territory, whatever constitution you put on the public record, pull 1 or 2 articles from that and put it in your document. And this template, once you do it, no matter what you're speaking to, it's going to respond. Even in the Biblioheliothek and the ancient records, it says they will come at you one way, which is capitalism. They'll come at you one way and flee from you 7 ways. This is what that embodies, what that entails. And then the King County Charter, pull something from there so that when you send your documentations out and it has whatever your county is that you have stated by your own charter that you put on the public record, you'll hit that one too, because that's going to be tying the land and the banking together. It's at the county level for us that the banking and the land go together. They meet there. Okay, and that's why we put county charters on the public record that we have crafted on our letterhead. And then you can go to the codes and statutes of the territory that you're in, and you handpick a code and a statute and elevate it to law. Okay, so that's going to cover that part. And then federal way city codes and zoning when you're talking about property, or when you're talking about jurisdiction of policy enforcers and things like that. Because they are, they're claiming to be, they were previously claiming to be city. Then you can go to the judicial proclamation that all Moors have and pull some stare decisis and res judicata from there, so that you reach back and get the old law that they know about. And then this one right here is really good where grocery stores are concerned, because I did some searching and some looking to see, what corporate policies are the grocery stores even going by? And do you know that they really don't have any? They really don't have, they make them up as they go. And that's not valid, really. That's why they can say you have to wear a mask when you come in here, because they're getting some policy from somewhere, because they don't have any policies. So we have to give them policies and laws. So as I was doing that, I realized through my research that grocery stores have very scant policies by which things are done. And because the food supply is regulated by the custodians in the Office of Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, and there are others who are claiming to have some authority over the food supply at different junctures in there. But by the time the food gets to the grocery store, it's the Food and Drug Administration, the custodians in the office of. So you can go to the FDA website, look through their policies with regard to grocery stores, and you can pull something from there. And then also we showed you not too long ago about the accept all cards that Visa and MasterCard and the merchant card industry has in their corporate policies. They have it written into all of them that any place that accepts their cards must accept all cards. Let's see if we can just let's see. It's called honor all cards. That's what it's called. It's the honor all cards rule. Let's look, MasterCard. Let's pull that up really quickly. Because again, when you're talking about merchant cards, and again, we're looking at everything that needs to be in place as we move forward, because we're not going to stop with regard to our economic liberty, our economic freedom, and our economic power, because there's too many of us buying too many things in order for us not to exercise our own sovereign power as written by us. So this is the one, this is the this is something that we are actually going to be looking at too. Let me make sure I note that, page 303. Being able to connect directly to the interchange system. That's something that we're going to be activating. And we kind of already have, but we're going to keep moving. Here, let's pull up really quickly, find on page, here it is. Okay, honor all cards. In the U.S. region, the rule on this subject as it applies to MasterCard card acceptance, and we just picked MasterCard, but they all have that rule, and they all must abide by it. Honor all debit MasterCard cards. So listen, Morris, our merchant cards, we can call them whatever we want to call them because we hold the superior lien on MasterCard. So we can use their logo, and even when they put their logo out there, they say, if you're going to use this logo, please make sure it looks like this. We can use Visa logo. We hold the superior lien on all of them. All of them. And they say that merchants should use the logos. So we can put those logos on our merchant cards. And those cards have to be honored with or without the logo, really. So we're going to be, as we move forward, we're going to be adding things to our processes and things based on our superior status and our superior liens and all that we have done and put in place, and notification, due process, the whole nine. The universal commercial codes as well, okay? Merchants that choose to accept debit MasterCards must honor all valid debit MasterCards without discrimination where properly presented for payment. The merchant must maintain a policy that does not discriminate among customers seeking to make purchases with a debit MasterCard. Again, Morris, now they're saying here debit MasterCard, we got to look at that. Look at the words that they're using and know that our creditor cards absolutely must be honored. Debit and debt mean the same thing, except for us, debits are actually reimbursements. They're reimbursements because we gave them everything they needed to go forth and do what they needed to do. Okay? It says here, all other MasterCard cards. Merchants that choose to accept other MasterCard cards, and this is where they put the Moors in and the things that we do in our banking system, this is where they put us in there, but they're not going to say Moors. They just say other MasterCards. Must honor all other MasterCards without discrimination when properly presented for payment. Well, when we have we hold the superior lien on MasterCard and on the SWIFT system and on the money, then no one can say, well, we don't honor that card here. Oh, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. But see, we don't have to force that issue. All we have to do is competently pull from when we see things like this, put it in, and if you go anywhere and you see the MasterCard logo on the machines, then this applies. The merchant must maintain a policy that does not discriminate among customers seeking to make purchases with another card. Another card. What's another card? Another card is a merchant card, a Moorish merchant card. And who is the master? Okay, we could go all day with that one. But this is another something that you can pull, and we're going to put all of this into practice, not practice, demonstration, and into our documents, so that as we move forward more, there's so many of us that are demonstrating that it's just, no one can tell us no when there's this many of us demonstrating, and we are the state and we are the government. No one can say no on our land, but we had to prove that they were even on our land, and we did that with the Constitution, the charters, and our courts and our money. Because see, on our land, dollarium is the money. Gold and silver is the money. The money is liens. The money is our documents, according to Universal Commercial Code. So there is nothing that we cannot have more when we're competent and articulate to get those things. And they're waiting for that to happen from us, and we're continuing to prove that we are competent to govern this vast estate in that manner. And governing the grocery stores in our territories is all a part of this. So all we're doing is bringing everything that we've done together and making it make sense to those who may not have understood it previously. We're putting it in terms that are easily understood. Okay. So let me see. And then, you know, it doesn't matter what land you are at. UK Moors, this same thing applies there because that's still the same land. Our lands are not separated. They're still the same land. We are all one. So everything that we're using can be used at any other land, quoted as such, because all of their money was coming from here anyway. No matter what their currency looked like, the credit for it was coming from here, or the debt for it, the debt credit in that corporate setting. But for us now, the credit for it is coming from us, you know. And when I say us, I mean you too. Because we're all one. This land is not separated, not at all. So are there any questions or comments with regard to what we have shown thus far in terms of judicial banking and demonstrating and accessing the resources that are on the land? Moors, even if you may not feel like you're seeing resources come through at this time, all we have to do is keep doing what we're doing. We're training everyone else back to what the law really is, because there's been such lawlessness because we were not in our proper status. Now we're training everyone, and that takes time. So we just have to keep showing up and keep doing what we're doing to get everything that belongs to us. And watch, Moors, as you start speaking into the resources, that things are going to come much easier, much easier, much easier. We're seeing that here in this territory, left and right, to the point where, I mean, it's easy to see where we're going next based on what's already happening. And the same things are happening at your territories too. You have to just, and most of you know this already, so I'm speaking to ones who don't know, the few who don't know, because there's a few who don't, that the eyes to see and the ears to hear, he that hath an ear, let him hear. Well, we have to speak first in order to even hear that our commands are being followed and obeyed. So Are there any other questions or comments regarding any of the things that we have shown thus far?
Islam.
Islam nobility.
This is Isaac. What you said several years ago, I used to go to the Alliance meetings. They was trying to free themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the fellows that I knew, he showed me a couple of documents where he used the UCC to exhaust the two loans on two different properties that he claimed ownership of. The bank reconveyed the title back in his name with no so-called outstanding debt to the bank. He showed that to me. On top of that, this was back in '75. He actually gave me a copy of it. His signature was on it. And when I got those copies, I read it, couldn't believe it. And when I basically put them in my briefcase, the next day I said, I'm going to make photocopies of everything that he gave to me.
Mm-hmm.
Would you believe someone stole my briefcase? Stole my briefcase with all my documents in it that he had given to.
You know,
oh boy. But he utilized the UCC to exhaust the two outstanding loans on his two different properties. And I saw that and I read it. That was real. From major banks that you have heard of. Actually, all of us have heard of.
Yes. Well, you know, nobility, the answer, that information is not hidden. We can find it still. We can use it still.
That is true.
And that's really the purpose of these calls, is to point to the Universal Commercial Codes using our own system and put it on the public record and enforce it. We saw what their enforcement is. They're using their corporate, quote unquote, corporate courts, and sheriffs come with that. Custodians in the office of sheriff come with that, even for the things that we say and do. You know, so we can find that information, and all it takes is to do a little digging, do a little study. And plus, you know what, there's nothing new under the sun, so that process is still out there available, whatever he used, you know. But
yes, Islam, whereby he didn't utilize any court. This is something he personally did on his own. That's what really shocked me. And I, as I said, I read it. His signature, which I recognize from other documents he had done. And he definitely used the UCC to exhaust those loans on his property.
So then he probably used several of them together, several of the UCCs together. For example, a 9 and a 3, or a 9 and a 7, or a 9 and an 11. You know, something like that. It
wasn't specified in his documents as to which one he utilized. And I was just so excited about it until I was just going to go make copies, and I was going to really just dig into it and determine how he was able to execute it. But I didn't get that opportunity because they had stole my briefcase with the documents he had just given me the following day.
The ancestors did not want you to try and do that in that system. They wanted you to remember that it was done and that it's doable, but they wanted you to do it outside of that system because you really cannot do. We, Moors, cannot do in that system what we
I understand now,
you know.
Yes, now I understand. Yeah, but I didn't really find out any knowledge of the Moors until
later, huh?
Yes, later. So, but that was just so fascinating to me to see that.
Now we know it can be done.
Oh yes, definitely. And he didn't use any.
And that's why I said what I said about the mapping. Yeah. Yeah.
And this was an Aberdeen. That's what really was.
That's why. Yeah, you know what? I'll say this about that and about them. They were acting for you. They wanted you to see what you have the authority to do, because clearly the system is not working for them that way, or else they would all be out of whatever it is that has them, they would all be out of there. But they're getting tossed out, and that's why they ran up in D.C. and corporation and did what they did on January 6th, and they're running around Black Lives Matter, this, that, and the third. They were acting for you so that you would know when you woke up what you have the authority to do. And they only used UCCs, and the only reason it worked for them then was because we were asleep. Now that we're awake, none of that stuff works for them, simply because those are rights of ours, and they were privileges for them while we slept. That's why they can't use it now. But as we stand, they can then point and say we're under the authority of the Moors. That's what the Republic is, and the Moors are speaking Constitution. And then they use the Constitution, and then the UCCs come with that. But they have to speak the Constitution first, properly, Nobility, thank you for sharing that, because we got this. We got this. All we have to do is keep doing what we're doing, There's nothing new under the sun. Really, go ahead, Nobility.
Yeah, really, when you were talking, that would brought back my memory, because one loan was for $460,000 and change. The other one was about close to $800,000 on another property he had, and the bank reconveyed the title to him with no outstanding debt forthcoming. And those numbers just stuck out in my memory. So
yeah,
and he didn't utilize the court. So that was very enlightening as to.
Well, he did utilize the court if they conveyed it back to him. If a judge did that.
Well, his only thing he gave me was what he had signed, and it didn't. Nowhere on there said anything about any so-called inferior court. There was nothing mentioned in his documents about the inferior courts. He dealt directly with the so-called banks.
So he was acting
and accomplished what he set out to accomplish.
He was acting as the court and as a sovereign. He was acting as a court and as a sovereign.
In his documents, he didn't indicate anything about being an executor, administrator. He just used his straight-up name, and that was it.
So,
it was really a shocker to me.
This is the crazy part about that. When you see documents like that, that means that they have some documents that they've already put on the public record.
Well, I personally, those documents just like he was just writing a letter to the bank, the so-called bank.
That means
there's nothing in there
previously.
Yeah.
He did something previously that said that he can just send a letter or whatever.
Well, he used the UCC. That's basically how he got it done.
Mm-hmm.
When you was quoting it, then that's what brought my memory back to the day he had given it to me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you saw it, Nobility, because we know that we can do that. We can do that.
Oh, yeah, it definitely can be done, because he did it. And he didn't utilize anything other than UCC to get what he wanted accomplished.
Mm-hmm. Well, he didn't show you anything else that he used.
Yeah, he actually gave me what he sent to the bank, and as I said, I put him up briefcases, people stole it the next day. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just blew me away.
Yeah.
So, planning on holding on to those documents.
Yeah. We're there now, where we can speak and things be said and done. you know, the way that they should be said and done. And we can use that. See, they were using our status or a facsimile of our status. Let me say that because they can't use our status. But they were always using in their sleep, while we were sleeping, they were pretending to be the sovereigns, and they were acting that out for us. And now it's our turn to be ourselves, you know. And they were just doing it to show us who we are. Yeah.
Because on other little things that he had shown me, I utilized them personally because I didn't consider it major. And that was so-called traffic tickets, parking violations. I utilized it personally, and I got the same results he got. But those are little things in comparison to what he showed me about the real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So I utilized that, and I got results.
Mm-hmm.
I one gentleman years ago, my car broke down, and public servant came along and said, "Oh, you can't get your car started?" So I said, "No, I look like I need a jump." So he parked the vehicle, got out, and I had the hood up, and he came over and helped me. We played with it, the cables underneath the hood, and finally got it going. So, and he said, something wrong for some reason. I pulled my car over in the red. It was a curb was red. He said, "Oh, well, you parked in it." He said, "I'm not going to give you a ticket." And then he said, "Well, let me hold on for a minute." He went and checked the plates. He came back and said, "Wait a minute. This can't be right because it's showing you owe $600 and some odd on outstanding ticket." And then he said, "No, this can't be right." So, I didn't say anything. So he said, "Well, don't worry about it." So he got in his car and drove off. And I thought to myself, I said, I remember I had a letter from one of the inferior courts that I had. It was outstanding parking tickets, things of that nature. And what happened, they placed the so-called penalty on it, and that blew it up. So I kind of it came back to me after he had run it because I had forgotten about it. It was several years ago, and it was still showing in the record. So I said, okay. And then I went ahead and got another ticket, and I did the same thing. He showed me what he had done on his tickets. And then I sent it in, and at the same time, all of those old tickets were totally discharged. And at that time, they won't reinstate your so-called driver's license if you got outstanding tickets. They sent me a notice that, well, you can reinstate your driver's license. And I did not. I did not do it because I saw there was another outlet where by attending all these different meetings, I noticed that I got an international license. And one of the Albions told me he had gotten an international license, and I said, "Oh, let me try that." And I got it, running to catch one of the public conveyances. I dropped it, and I paperwork, all of that. I moved several times, so I don't know where it was. I looked, tried to find it. And this was years ago. I had an international driver's license. I said, forget it. He said, if you got an international driver's license, you don't need the so-called city driver's license. So I just didn't even renew the city driver's license. So I just used my international license that the Albions had told me about. And I was able to go and come as I so pleased. But the thing is, I don't know where it's at. I don't know.
The ancestors knew
combination
what they were doing when you kept losing stuff, because they wanted you to.
That part I knew.
Yeah.
See, that part I knew. That was on me because I had people have to be moved from one place to the other, and some of them had taken a few items from me. But I don't know. Some of the things could have been thrown out in boxes, and I probably had filed it away and forgot about it because I had the thing in my pocket. But as far as those documents about the real estate, I knew I had those in a briefcase because I was going to photograph those the next day. But it's all about those tickets and things, how they exhaust that. I think that was just a matter of me just throwing it away in the trash or something, because I looked and looked and I couldn't find it. But those, I consider those little things in terms of the big real estate deals that he was doing, and getting those liens, those titles reconveyed back to his name. That's the part I wanted to sit and study and try to, find out, how that all came together. And I lost.
Well, you got time now. You have time now.
Yes.
Are there any other questions, comments?
Yeah.
Islam.
So lately, at the grocery store, I've been seeing our brothers and sisters with dashiki on and men have hair covered and stuff like that, and so it reminds me of there being a day when you're going to see fezzes,
Yes. I was thinking the same thing the other day. And sometimes when I see them, I actually have to restrain myself from not approaching them, too enthusiastically, But yeah, it's good to see.
Yes, it's surprising too, because they don't have the face mask on, because they the custodians re-implemented the face mask again in this territory, and so, but hey, they don't have their mask on, and they are wearing the clothing and stuff, and I've seen like a good 10 people in the store at one time, with the clothing on, and so yeah, I try not to look enthusiastic too, but one brother saw me looking out the corner of my eye at him because he had the head covered on too. He didn't have a fez on, but his head was, with the dashiki on and everything. So he nodded at me, even though I was looking at him in the corner of my eye. He saw me, but I said, so, but yeah, I just wanted to give energy at the
yeah,
at the end of yeah. And one more earlier when I was talking about the dollar sign with the two lines, I looked at the dollar sign again. I was like, oh, I think that looks like only one line. Because I was thinking I saw two lines. So everybody forgive me if I said that. But I did see research that said they used to use.
I remember seeing two lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case in this time. I apologize. And I yield.
Islam. Yeah. So, Islam nobility.
How you doing?
Islam.
I just want to add to what you was talking, gentlemen, about those papers and the mortgage. I'm reading something from the Clock of Destiny, where it says the history of the Moorish nation lies in the library of every state of the Union. The history of the Moorish nations, our fathers, lies hidden in the libraries of every state of the Union, and also in the libraries of practically every home of the European Americans, referred to as white people. Therefore, the history of the Moorish Empire is not news to them, for they have been guided by the history of the Moors under potent influence of fear and hatred during the past 93 years, calculated from 1865.
Wow. Yeah. See, yeah, thank you, nobility. The union, we're actually implementing what it really is, actually, by putting constitutions on the public record and charters on the public record and governing. The union was really actually the subjects and custodians doing their foreign commerce on the land, and then us governing everything allodially and sovereignly. That's really what the union is. That's what it is. And us knowing that we're at the states on the land, and that they are corporate and on paper. And that at any time, according to the Declaration of Independence, that we want to alter or abolish, that we alter and abolish. And that's really what is happening, is we've altered back to what it should be, really. Forms of government that's not really government. A form of government is not government. Government is government. So with that being said, are there any other questions, comments, wisdom, anything else? Islam. So hopefully the information that we shared today will help you with regard to putting your affidavits together, crafting the law in your territories, and governing the resources that are there. You know, and us doing that in a manner that is consistent across the board. We do want to have we want to have unity with regard to how we govern, and keep moving forward. It's everything that we needed to put in place. Oh, and in the coming weeks, we are going to be giving more of an update on both the constitutions that have come in, as well as the Al-Moroccan American Exchange and our banking. We need to put the numbers out so that you can see how much donations have come in and investments have come in with regard to the Al-Moroccan American Exchange, as well as the donations that have come in. I'll give a report on the donations that came in directly to me for the work that we're doing. Moors have been sending a minimum of $300 per month in the Moorish sovereign dollarium every month, because we don't accept fiat. They've been sending $300 a month every month, and I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't thank you enough for the dollarium donations every month to help us to continue doing what we're doing in terms of all of the information that we share, the research that we share, the documents that we put out, and all that the ancestors are giving us to assist in uplifting a fallen humanity. So with that being said, thank you again, and we appreciate the dollarium. And anyone else who wants to send dollarium every month for us, we would love it. Thank you, because we see our banking manifesting. Islam nobility.
Islam. Yes. Do you need the seals on it when we send you the dollarium, or we can send it without the seals? Because I don't have any seals made up.
Oh, you can send it without the seals, as long as it has your autograph and your right red thumbprint.
Autograph is right thumbprint. Great.
And you can even send it electronically by email. Yeah, Islam.
Empress?
Islam.
The inheritance packages, I need to study all of that some more, but at first glance, it appears I just need to just pick one of the companies, and after you choose one of the companies, then what's the next step?
I'm so glad you asked, and I'm trying to keep some things close to my vest about that. But let me just tell you, I'll answer that. You can pick as many companies as you choose.
Okay.
That's number one. Number two, once you have chosen the companies that you want to claim as part and parcel of your inheritance, you autograph the documents, put the amount that you want to invest in that company. This is going to be so important for what's coming up. It's unbelievable. And then scan it back in and send it to the governmente@gmail.com. We do have someone going through the emails now and just doing a spreadsheet, putting it together. She just recently started going through the emails and putting the spreadsheet together so that we can see what the companies that each Moor has chosen, and put that in a spreadsheet and let everyone know what the donations are. And you can donate any amount that you want in terms of dollarium from your own vast estate that you choose for your company. And we're going to What to do with the companies next is we'll get to that shortly. That's one of those things that the ancestors knew that you were going to ask this question, so they started giving me the answer some days ago. And what they showed me and what they had me demonstrate last night and this morning with regard to that to show you is I didn't know, well, I knew we had the authority to do it, but I didn't know we could do it this way in terms of presentment of the companies and the use of the resources that every one of those companies has at our disposal. We have the ability to use those resources today. So choose as many companies as you feel led to choose, and then prepare to do some digging and some research in the records of the companies and the financials of the companies and things like that, so that as we continue to nationalize the companies and continue adding companies and adding investment to the Moroccan American Exchange, that we do so with full disclosure on, you know, the state of the companies and all of that, because those companies are being generated in our sovereign state. But we have the corporate state, so we can look at their records on that company to see. So do your research on the company, when it started and all of that. And the information that you find on any of the companies, if it says it started in 1926, all that means is that that's when the foreigners founded or found it. The word founded, when they say founding fathers, that means they found something. They didn't discover it. They didn't invent it. It was already waiting there. We had already put that stuff in order, you know. So once you pick the company, you know, you go through the list of 200-something companies. Empress, pick as many as you choose. Fill out the inheritance and investment packet with the amount that you want to invest in that company in Dollarium. And because we don't accept fiat, we only do go back more sovereign Dollarium for those companies. And then we'll compile that information. We're going to be putting that information out even more so over the next few months, because it's so important in terms of where we're going next. And I was going to show part of that today, but we don't have time. I'll show it in the coming weeks on what we're actually going to be doing with the companies as they sit today on our land. You know.
Empress, I was preparing to do a demonstration for a corporation called Joanne Fabrics, and because I noticed that Singer was one of the inheritance companies, and I was going to do a demonstration for them. So is that document, is it suggested, can we put it on the public record? I mean, it's on the public record now just by speaking about it, but is that something that can be sent to a corporation as evidence that Singer is one of our companies? Because they have, you know, the fabric companies and things like that, they have all of those products.
Empress, you make it your company by your affidavit, because they already know it belongs to us. Your nationality and your fiduciary document says that anything on our land, you're the fiduciary of.
Islam, indeed. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. And to answer your question about is there any one document, you can take the list of companies and add them to your list if they're not already on there. But you said Singer is on there, so go ahead and print that off. It's under the video, and I can put that video in the chat. Let me go to it.
You don't have to, Empress, because you already sent it to my email.
Oh,
so
good. Good. Yeah. Thank you. So with that being said, if there's nothing further, we will adjourn until Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern for our next Congressional Assembly on governing the land and how we're doing that and accessing the resources. You can see by the processes that we're doing that the resources are making themselves available. So let's just keep going. Islam. Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural divine heirs. Islam.
Peace and grand rising.
Grand rising.
Islam.
Grand rising.
Peace and love.
Love.
Islam. Grand rising, more.
Peace and love.
Islam. Islam.
Oh no, no. Move stuff up. Oh, okay. You want to watch TV? You want to watch TV? Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
There's some airs
You want
in
to turn
the
TV on?
background.
Yeah. TV?